everyone, welcome back to Jaja Draws. So last time I did a squishy makeover, um, I said something.
I cut the bow off the baby, and that's the last we'll see of the baby. She's gone now.
And my son got incredibly obsessed with this and said, "You know what you need to do, Mom? You need to bring the baby back." Dun dun dun. So here she is, the baby that I claimed we'd never see again. And she is, injured aside from the injury I gave her by cutting her bow off. She's got some splits along her neck and legs and other normal places. In addition to the baby, I am pulling out this adorable little croissant, I guess, and this narwhal, which sadly has a giant rip in its tail, but it has several perfectly usable pieces, including that delightful horn. And they all squish rather nicely. And I'm going to put them together. Here we go. So I started by cutting the ears off the baby and then marking it up and trimming a hair shape into it. I did not know this at the time because I'd never tried it before, but wow! Cutting off huge areas and then just trying to make them look like hair afterwards, it's quite the challenge. But you will see that I trimmed away with very good will and made a right mess of my workspace. I mean, look at that slowly growing pile of foam I got there. When I had the baby all trimmed up, I went ahead and cut the butt off the narwhal and then the horn as well. And then I cut the butt off the baby so that I could attach them together. I did actually twist the tail quite a lot because I thought it would be more interesting to have sort of a fluid swimming shape to the squishy. And again, I have to say in retrospect, that was probably a mistake. It is very hard to paint a squishy when there's no way to put it down that it won't roll. So after I glued all the initial pieces together, you'll see right here, tested out some butt shapes. Once I had the butt to my liking, I glued everything on and then proceeded to rubber band it in such a way that I definitely messed it up like at least 3 times. I actually eventually went in with hot glue because I tried fabric glue so many times and every time the rubber band would cut in between the pieces and just pop them apart. I think maybe I need wider rubber bands. Anyway, I glued on the horn, I glued on the shell to be her little crown, and then I based her out in white. And yes, you'll notice here, I did miss that footage of basting her out in white. I wanted her to be colors that would pop. I think green is pretty typical for a mermaid, and I didn't want that. I decided it would be fun to go with like something that would be pastel and corally. So here I am putting on the initial layer of pink for her skin tone and then purple for her tail and her hair. One of the things that happened was my tripod broke in the midst of this project, so I have these 2 clips here that are taken at a very bizarre angle because I just sort of propped my phone up and tried to make sure you could see what was going on while I painted. Once I got her all covered, the next morning I went in and realized that paint dries really darkly, like fabric paint in particular, and it was just way too dark for me. So I remixed the colors, made them a great deal lighter, and went back in and did it all again. She ended up still not as pale as I would have liked. I couldn't face doing it another time, but she ended up much lighter in her skin, and then again much lighter on her hair and tail. It's honestly hilarious, the struggles of trying to paint a shape with neither, I mean, it has a front and back, but it doesn't, like, she can't lay flat on her back, she can't lay flat on her front, she can't lay flat on her side. There's no way to lie her down that just one thing is up. It's quite amazing. So when you got struggles like that, you gotta come up with a clever way to dry things. Once she was dry, I went in and drew where I wanted her face to be. I did very purposely put her eyes to the side to give her kind of that wide, fish-eyed look. And then I painted in a shape that, again, was more reminiscent of a fish than a human mouth. Her hair wasn't reading well to me, so I went in and lined it so that you could see locks in the front. And I really liked that effect. But then I just went a little overboard in the back, and then it started to look like she was wearing a hairnet. And I'm not really sure what all ended up happening with her head. In the end, I didn't loathe it. Let's put it like that. But I think I definitely think I need some practice and maybe to think a little bit more before I just go whacking into my squishy's heads and just assuming I can make it look like hair later, because that's not necessarily true. See, the struggle is real. Let's all pause and ask ourselves why I picked the squishy up before I opened the paint bottle, thus making the entire process more difficult on myself. I decided to use this dark blue for the eyes and mouth. I thought it would be softer than going in with a black, and I felt like the palette was already pretty diverse, what with the pink and the purple and the blue and the various mixtures of those colors, and I just didn't want to bring in any other tones. It just felt like too much to me. So since the dark blue was in the purple, that seemed like a good compromise to me. Going in with those fish lips. Oh yeah. I felt like she wasn't really blingy enough, so I added some gold glue to her seashell crown and her horn and the shell that she's holding in her hands. I thought that would look better. Oh yeah, that's a shell she's holding in her hands, in case you hadn't gotten that yet. The problem here is that I don't know if I put it on too thick or what, but that glue would not dry. It was maddening. It drove me crazy. And it was worse because after I did the sparkles on her horn and her shell, I thought, hey, her fin's kind of plain. So let me go ahead and go in with the blue glue that glitter glue that I have, and put on a coat down there. Why did I do this? I don't know. But I put it on so thick, and I waited like 3 hours, and it was still a sloppy mess. And I hated it. So I went and washed all that off, but the fin was still looking really plain to me. So I decided to edge it out and give her a little waistband with my dark blue color, which you see me doing here. And then I wanted to give her a little bit more texture. So I went in and did, I guess they're scales, little dots. Look at that, edge out that butt. Oh, I do love her booty. I love her booty so much. So yeah, I just gave her little clusters of scales down on the fluke so that it wasn't quite so plain. Give it a little bit more texture. And I do like how that turned out. So here she is, my finished baby mermaid squishy. I'm sure my son is thrilled that I brought her back. I don't hate her. I don't love her as much as I loved Maccabee. I felt like Maccabee worked out better for me, but she's fun and she's squishy and she's lovely pastel colors. And if you color up her face, she's pretty cute. Although I have to admit, I do love squishing her face. And I also like turning her so that her face is kind of like teeth chomping together. Look, I'm weird, okay? But anyway, it was fun making another squishy. And it was especially fun bringing back the baby, which I said we'd never see again. Thanks for watching.